What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Nicholas, this is Redline Ranch, and today we're back working on my 1988 Turbo 2RZ Toyota pickup. For those of you that aren't familiar, we built this 1988 Turbo Toyota pickup on the channel. It has got a eBay turbo, a home-built manifold, and just a bunch of super cheap parts thrown at it. It has been a budget build through and through, and today we're going to be addressing a couple issues it's got, trying to get it fixed up and get it ready to continue being a daily. I drive it quite a bit, and we've actually got some upgrades in this video planned that I think are going to be really freaking cool for this thing. There's been one issue that's kind of followed me since I built it, and we're going to try and squish that issue completely and totally today, and that's the mass airflow sensor. When I first built this, the mass airflow sensor was in this charge pipe, and I put 2,500 miles on it that way. I made 250 horsepower on the dyno that way, and it worked. But there was some issues. I was getting really bad AFRs, like 8 to 10 AFRs while idling, 11 under full load, which isn't terrible, but I was getting atrocious gas mileage. I was getting 10 miles to the gallon. A lot of people had told me that my mass airflow sensor might be an issue and that I should put it before the turbo. They said put a U and put it as far back before the turbo as you can, try and get clean, straight air going through the mass airflow sensor. And so I did that. And it genuinely helped. It helped a whole lot. It helped with idle, it helped with taking off from a stop. It didn't have near as much of a jerk, and my gas mileage went up to 20 to 21 miles to the gallon, and that was driving around pretty aggressively, I will say. So I was really pleased, but there was one issue. And when the blow-off valve went off and it was reading all of that air that was just exiting the atmosphere, it would run so rich it would stall. And so I removed the blow-off valve thinking maybe that would help. When I remove the blow-off valve, now the turbo stutter, when the air stops, it runs so lean, it stalls. In order to remedy that, I went ahead and I ordered some couplers that go from 2.5 inch to 3 inch because the mass airflow sensor housing factory is just about 3 inches. And I'm gonna put the mass airflow sensor right here. I'm gonna put 2.5 to 3 step up. I'm gonna put the mass airflow sensor in a stock housing and go back to the 2.5 inch. And the reason I think this is going to help is because the airflow going through the slightly smaller pipe in the 2.5 inch intercooler piping is going faster. So the same amount of air going through a smaller diameter tube is going to be moving faster, and this mass airflow sensor is calibrated to a bigger diameter tube. So I think that using the stock factory mass airflow sensor housing in the charge pipe is going to be my best solution, and hopefully that stops my stalling issue. All right, I went ahead and I got this installed. I just cut out this straight piece of pipe right there, put in the mass airflow sensor. The sensor's on the bottom so that the wiring points the proper direction, and the mass airflow sensor also points the proper direction. So now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna untie this wiring from up here, I'm gonna unloom it from back in here, and I'm gonna reroute it under the intake and see if I can make it reach without having to extend it. If I have to extend it, I will, but ideally, I can just make it work as it is. We just barely got this wiring to work. It's a little bit tight, but we're gonna go ahead and see if it'll fire up with the new mass airflow sensor location. I don't know. Got the turbo truck back in the garage, and we've got a pretty nifty addition. Family member was getting rid of this rooftop tent, had a great deal on it, and I just couldn't say no. So we're gonna put it on the turbo truck and see how it fits. I think it's gonna ride great. I think if I can mount it to the bed rails, it'll be under the height of the cab. It only weighs 110 pounds, and I don't think it's going to affect the MPGs a drastic amount. So I'm really excited about that. Also, we've been driving around the turbo truck with the new mass airflow sensor location for a little while, and it seems to be having all of the issues that the initial mass airflow sensor location had. It stumbles a little bit off of when you're starting from a stop. It's got a pretty rough cold start, and more than anything, it's running extremely rich at idle. Give it the best shot I possibly can, but I'm probably gonna end up moving the mass airflow sensor again back to a pre-turbo location, but I wanna give it the best shot possible before I do that. So for now, all we're doing is mounting the rooftop tent. So this is the hardware I got that was mounting it. They just had these 1/4 inch pieces of stock run through the entirety of the channel under it.
And then they had this then bolted to, like this, to their tonneau cover. But I don't think I'm gonna be doing quite that. I'm gonna see how these line up with the bed rails. I would like to possibly just drill and bolt it into the bed rails. There's already a bunch of holes here. So maybe we can get it to line up with one or two of them, get this thing set there. That would make it open backwards, which wouldn't be terrible. Opening backwards would probably be fairly decent. We'd be entering from the very, very back. It'd keep everything nice and narrow. You wouldn't take up too much space. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try and mount this in pretty much the simplest way I can and see how it looks. I don't think I could make this up if I tried. This is the most perfect fit. There is maybe a ½ inch up front and the back is touching on both sides. I genuinely don't think I could get a better fit if I tried. I'm stoked about that. And I think I'm gonna put it, I played around, I pushed it forward, I pulled it back. I think I'm gonna pull it all the way back just so that the weight is, I really don't know why. I just feel like all the way back is gonna be better, so that's where I'm gonna mount it if I'm being completely honest. But of course, none of the holes that are there were 2 or 3 holes on this side, none of the holes line up. So I'm gonna have to drill some new holes, get some hardware through here. I'm probably just gonna use some 12mm hardware. I've debated riv nutting it, but I'm probably just gonna do some through bolts for now. I can riv nut it in the future if I ever want to. But I'm gonna get some holes drilled, get this mounted, and then we're gonna have to go set it up somewhere and see what it looks like. I'm excited, that'll be awesome. Look at that, we got this thing mounted up. It's so solid. I can't believe how well that worked out. Genuinely could not have planned it better. It works out perfect. I have it just to where you can grab the tailgate if you need. It's in a nice solid location. I think it looks really good. It's super solidly mounted. It was super simple. And this will give me the opportunity to try it out and see if I even like having a rooftop tent on the turbo truck.
It is a beautiful and brisk morning and we are back working on the turbo truck. And I'm really excited. I think we're gonna get a lot of issues ironed out today. For starters, I moved the MAF over here thinking that hopefully being in line, it would resolve the stall issue, and being in the 3-inch housing, it would resolve the idle and MPG issues I've been having. Unfortunately, it only solved one of those issues. It doesn't stall anymore, but that's the same as the MAF housing I had up here on this pipe. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm actually gonna take this off. I'm gonna move the MAF back to pre-turbo, and there's a stalling issue, and that's just kind of what it is for right now. And we've already started tearing this engine bay apart because right now, there is a very key component missing in between the engine and radiator. It's pretty tight. I moved the engine forward a little bit to accommodate the drive shaft and everything that I was going on here, and I have no fan. This is a fan that I pulled off of a crawler project that I just picked up and got running, and I think I'm gonna go a different route with the crawler project because I'm not worried about horsepower, so I can put a mechanical fan on that. But this looks like it might be thin enough and the right shape to work around the water pump and everything I've got going on in there to get a fan on this radiator. So this summer, the month's coming up, because it's only a couple months away, then I'm gonna be able to actually drive this thing. Because right now, with no fan, the only heat control I have outside of driving is the heater inside the cab, which does work and it does help control the heat, but not near enough. So we're gonna get installing this.
This is lit.
The clearance I'm working with is crazy.
It is about 4:15 in the morning and we are currently headed to Moab, Utah.
we got a little bit of an opportunity to help some really cool people out, and I am definitely gonna jump on it. So last night we got the turbo truck loaded up, tuned up, ready to go, oil change. Everything's good to go. We got a bunch of fluids, tools. Apparently the hood wasn't latched all the way, so we're already off to a very interesting start on the side of the highway. We made it to our first fuel stop. We are in Bernalillo and we're filling up with some premium. I'm gonna go ahead and go over this entire thing, make sure it's still got all the fluids in. I wasn't sure last night, but since we're a little bit of a leg into our journey, now is a good time to double check, make sure it's got oil, coolant, and all that fun stuff. I did bring a bunch of extra fluids as well as tools, so I'm not super worried, but I do like to be prepared. Everything's looking good. I think I'm gonna turn my fuel pressure down just a hair. Not a whole lot. Right now I'm running like 52, 53 pounds of base pressure before boost at idle, which is about 12 PSI higher than I need. And right now I'm running real rich when I'm just barely on the throttle and it runs the open loop. It goes like 0.6 in lambda, which is something like 10 to 1 AFRs, or 8, probably I think it's like 9 to 1 AFRs, which is just a little bit too rich for a very low boost. All right, that's not too bad. 18.5 mpg according to gallons versus trip meter. My trip meter is really close to accurate. It's not perfect, but it is really close to accurate. And I did a lot of idling and a lot of city driving on that tank. So super excited. We've got a full tank of fuel. We're gonna go ahead, we're hitting the road.
Start it up.
All right, and we have made it to Moab. We're actually just north of Moab, and we linked up with a couple familiar faces, some people you definitely know if you're on the YouTube realm, some people you definitely know if you've been around my channel for a while. So I'm really excited. We've got Elevated Overland right in front of us. In front of him is Grind Hard Plumbing Company in their new Humvee. And I'm not exactly sure what we're doing, but we're gonna go have some fun in some awesome four-wheel drive rigs. And so far, the turbo truck's done awesome, so I'm in a really good mood and I'm really excited to see where today goes. So last night was the first night sleeping in the rooftop tent on the turbo truck, and it actually was really nice. The suspension wasn't too soft. I was feeling like it might be. Everything felt real good. The wind was pretty loud. I've never had a soft shell rooftop tent. I have my hard shell. The hard shell is much quieter, which I do kind of miss, but it is what it is. And then we can hit the road to pretty much Canada, which is really cool. I'm excited. I've never been that far north in America, and I'm just down for the adventure. Really excited. We're actually gonna be leaving the turbo truck here in Moab, Utah. After that, I didn't film a whole lot. I was busy having a good time with Grind Hard and Elevated Overland. I was having a flawless trip back from Moab to Albuquerque, cruise control set, then all of a sudden, oh, well, it's been a couple days since I've updated you guys, but turbo truck's down on the side of the road. I lost fuel pressure. I'm not sure if my fuel pressure regulator is going bad, my filter is going bad. I'm not getting fuel pressure at my regulator. So first thing I'm gonna do is got the pre-tank filter up in here somewhere. I'm gonna check it out and see if I can find out what's going on with that. Luckily, I was pretty close to Cuba, New Mexico, because I have no engine. I finally got over that last little hill. I was just literally one hill away from Cuba when the fuel pump died. I got it to go over this last hill, and right now I am coasting into Cuba with no engine. Oh God. Doing 25, 30 miles an hour. And hopefully I can coast all the way to the CarQuest Auto store, and hopefully they have a fuel pump that works, because this is not just any fuel pump. It's an external fuel pump, and those aren't as common these days. So here's hoping. Well, unfortunately, CarQuest over there didn't have it, so I'm currently walking to Napa because it's not too far away, and this thing doesn't run at all, actually. It just stopped trying to start, sputters out. When I got it to drive here, my AFRs were like 20 to 1, just outrageous. So definitely not getting enough fuel. I definitely think it's the fuel pump. Hopefully we can get to a parts store that has a fuel pump. If not, I might be in a little bit of a sticky situation. So here's hoping. In Napa.
Napa for the win. Fuel pump coming in. We're back from Napa. We're actually in front of CarQuest. I'm not at all happy with CarQuest. They wouldn't really help me at all. I had to walk a mile to Napa, and Napa was genuinely super helpful and got me exactly what I needed. So here is a fuel pump. I need to swap this fitting out for this fitting because I need the smaller fitting on here for the application I'm in. And then I can pull mine off of the fuel frame rail down there. The fuel pump will come off. I can throw that one on. It should just be a direct application. Unbolt it, bolt it back in, put the lines back on, and we should be good to go. And I'll know almost immediately if it solves our issue. Probably gonna have to reset my fuel pressure regulator because I turned the fuel pressure all the way up, hoping that that would solve my issue, but I think it was definitely the pump because the pump does not sound good. This is what we've got going on. I already loosened these a little bit. I'm gonna loosen them all the way, disconnect these two lines and the power, and we'll have this thing out of here in no time. So I got this fuel pump thinking it was the issue, and when I took the old fuel pump line off, I'm not sure if you saw, but there was a ton of pressure in the line, which tells me the pump is producing pressure, which is curious why I don't have enough pressure. So I went ahead and I just ran inside and I bought a $35 fuel filter, but I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna replace the fuel filter on the side of the block and see if that changes anything. So hopefully this gives us some sort of something and we can get back on the road because we've been in Cuba for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours now, and I'm tired, didn't sleep much last night, and I've had a long week. Look at that! After an hour and a half of fighting a fuel pump in the middle of Cuba, New Mexico, we've got a fuel pump that is actually a whole lot quieter, which, who knew my loud fuel pump was gonna explode. My fuel filter wasn't the issue. This actually, I forgot I replaced it, but whatever. I put a new one on. Oh, and I think we're finally good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna wrap up all of my tools that are everywhere. I'm gonna make sure I've got no fuel leaks. And we're gonna hit the road. Goodness gracious, I'm beat. I don't think I have fully fixed the issue. We are back on the road, but it's just acting funny and running lean. I might check to make sure the fuel pressure is good. I don't know. I'm honestly pretty confused at this point. Can't make this stuff up. She's dead. Literally dead. Dead in the water. We made it to the next town. This is the second town we have coasted into. All right, so we're back on the side of the road. I pulled over into here. I don't know what's going on. Something is definitely wrong. So I'm gonna go get gas and see where it's pouring gas on the ground. I don't know what I am. It's running fine. No issues. I put 3/4 of a gallon of gas in it. My fuel gauge, which works, I want to preface, this fuel gauge has never ever led me astray. Not once. Last night it read empty. Last night I had this fuel gauge all the way to the empty line. No issues. But for some god-awful reason, I think I just ran out of fuel with half a tank. All right, no idea what happened. We're running just fine with air fuel ratios. It's running plus miles an hour. We're having zero issues. I'm dumbfounded, I guess. I guess I need to drop the tank and see if there's something wrong with the pickup tube in there. I don't know. Something's wrong, that's for sure.
The rest of our trip back from Moab went fairly well. We didn't have any more issues. The fuel pump maintained. We are back working on the turbo truck yet again, and today we're doing something a little bit different than we usually do. We're gonna be doing a couple aesthetic mods. The front of this thing sits a ton higher than the rear, and I wanna change that. I would like this thing to sit level. I think that would help with the looks. After I get all that done, this thing does not have a passenger mirror. It came that way. It came that way from the factory, I'm pretty sure. So I'm gonna be going ahead and drilling a couple holes, putting some rib nuts in, and installing a passenger side mirror for a second gen Toyota pickup. In order to lower this thing, it's got torsion bars. They're really easy. They've got keys that actually determine how much preload is put on the springs. So all you gotta do is go under there with the right size socket and turn them in the right direction. I'm gonna be loosening them in this case to lower it. I'm gonna loosen it the same number of turns, left and right, get out, check it out, see how everything looks height-wise. Hopefully I can get it looking about the same as the rear, where the tire is almost flush with the wheel arch. That's gonna look a ton better. So I'm gonna get under there, we're gonna take this side down a few turns, that side down a few turns, and we're gonna start to gauge how much we need to go down to get it to match.
Start it up.
I went ahead and I was on bump stops. That's why I wouldn't go down anymore in the front. So I went ahead. These are bump stops off of a 1994 Toyota 4Runner, and they're, I don't know, 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch shorter, and they are a little bit different. I'm hoping they're a little bit softer, but I know for a fact they're shorter. So since they're shorter already, I'm gonna take a grinder. I'm gonna grind them down just a little bit. I've got 2 of them, 1 for each side, and I'm gonna replace these with some smaller ones that in theory can compress more because the plate on the bottom has a lot less ridging on it, like this one. The factory bump stop in, and it is hitting the factory bump stop really hard. So this will let me be lower as a ride height and be lower with bump stops. One of the last things I'm doing is I'm installing a passenger side mirror, especially with the tent on the back. You cannot see anything out of the back of this thing. And no passenger side mirror makes it a pain in the butt to merge lanes, pull out in traffic, or just do a lot of things, back up out of a parking spot. So I got this one from a good buddy of mine. I almost broke it, but I didn't. And so we're gonna install it and get a passenger mirror on this thing. Oh, this truck just makes me smile. Even with the rooftop tent, this thing is a ripper. It's been a few days and we have put a couple tanks of gas through this thing. We've had no more fueling issues after that first initial little disturbance. I don't know what happened. Stoked that there's no more issues. This thing is finally looking proper. Oh my God, I can't believe how much better it looks now that the suspension is all the same. It doesn't look like it's squatted. It looks like everything is supposed to be there. The rooftop tent is so comfortable. It's amazing to sleep in. It's so convenient. I wasn't sure how much I'd like the soft shell coming from a hard shell rooftop tent, but I do really enjoy it. Super spacious. And really the biggest game changers so far were the passenger side mirror and fan. They make this thing a comfortable daily driver. There's no more worrying about it. There's no more avoiding drive-throughs or something because I don't want my truck to sit there idling and I don't want to turn it off and turn it back on. And the mirror makes traffic a completely different experience. I'm no longer really extremely worried about merging to the right or turning over, anything like that. Especially with the tent behind you, you can't see anything out of the rear view mirror. So from the right side of you, you're just blind. So, truck's turning out amazing. I'm really enjoying driving it. I've got a huge revamp plan for this thing, but for now, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you subscribing, and I really hope to catch you on the next one.